Okay, Mr. Allen, let's start with these 3 counts. They could be refiled by Fani Willis. Trump is still facing 88 others. Put into context for us as the general election campaign gets officially underway, what he's facing on the legal front.
I mean, he's facing something completely unprecedented in American history, which is a president of the United States facing not not just 88 criminal charges, but any criminal charge, one for each key on a piano, if you can imagine that. This is not something that has put Donald Trump in the clear in any way. It is a good day for Donald Trump. Of course, any victory in court for him, he's facing so many court dates and so many criminal charges, as you point out, that that he's going to have a lot of good days to beat all these raps. But today, a good day for him to see these disappear, at least for the moment. And of course, to your point before, they could be refiled, but there's still plenty pending against him.
Barb, the judge said that the counts were not detailed enough about those violations. What do you think about that? Because when it comes to the call with the Secretary of State looking for votes, we all heard that. It seemed major.
Yes, what's interesting about the judge's ruling, Stephanie, is what he says is there's plenty of facts that are alleged here. That's not the problem. The problem was their failure to articulate what law was violated. And so there is a due process right to put the defendant on notice exactly what they're charged with so that they can defend against the claim. And so what he says here is that they are charged with soliciting public officials to violate their oath of office. That oath of office says that they will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of Georgia. And what the judge says is they must specify which provisions of those 2 documents the government alleges were violated. And so he said they can come back and refile as long as they specify the precise clauses in the Constitution that they allege were filed. So it has nothing to do with the substance of the charges. And in fact, he even goes so far as to say the evidence cited here, the call with Brad Raffensperger and other things, certainly remains part of this case and can be brought up in the RICO charges. And if the Georgia prosecutor wants to, she could refile and fix this flaw. It's a form over substance kind of flaw.
Okay, so McKay, right to that point, it's form over substance. The judge is not saying that the underlying evidence isn't valid. But of course, Team Trump is going to run a major victory lap over this, aren't they?
Yeah, of course. I mean, look, the tricky thing that Trump and his camp are going to have to confront here is that up until now, for the past year, the entire narrative they've been pushing is that this is the greatest political persecution in history, that the judicial system is being rigged against him, that this is a witch hunt. What's going to be interesting to watch is how they react when things like this happen, when judges act like judges and there are developments in these cases that go their way. Are they going to take victory laps and say, oh, this just shows that Trump isn't guilty? Well, how is that reconciled with the idea that the whole judicial system is rigged against them? I think they're going to be pushing 2 kind of parallel narratives. And I think that it's going to be increasingly difficult for them to square as we head toward a general election.
McKay speaking with logic. All right, Barb, let's go to Florida, because tomorrow Judge Aileen Cannon, who has been extraordinarily friendly to the former president, will hear arguments on his motions to throw out the classified documents case. As I said, she has been super friendly to him thus far. What should we expect?
Well, tomorrow is really the heart of the case, I think, because Donald Trump has repeatedly said that he was permitted to take these documents under the Presidential Records Act, that he transferred them from government records to personal records, and therefore he was entitled to keep them. This is a really big issue in this case. I think it's a frivolous argument. The Presidential Records Act itself was passed in the wake of Watergate and the Nixon administration to clarify and make it clear that government records belong to the people of the United States. They are not the personal property of the president. And so I think this argument is nonsense. But tomorrow we're going to hear the arguments from these lawyers, and the judge is going to make a decision on this. And I think that if she follows the law properly, it seems to me that this is an argument that should be defeated. And then I think this case then looks to be in good shape for trial, and it will be impossible for Donald Trump to continue this narrative that I had every right to keep these documents.
John, we do not air Trump rallies, but tomorrow He's likely to attend the hearing in front of this judge. As I said, she's been really friendly to him, and most likely on the courthouse steps, he will turn this in to an ad hoc Trump rally. Is this exactly what his voters, not necessarily more voters, the voters he needs to actually win the election, but is this the campaign gold, as absurd as it is, that they like?
Well, there's two pieces to what Trump's got to do, Stephanie, and one of them will be served tomorrow, which is to keep his base excited around this idea that McKay was talking about before, that he is being persecuted by prosecution. The other is to make a persuasive argument to swing voters that they should go for him instead of Biden. So tomorrow is something that serves that base group. But going back to something else McKay said before, I don't think, and certainly time has not proven that logical consistency is the priority of Donald Trump or his campaign. So I think they're going to celebrate the victories and at the same time continue to make this argument that he is being treated unfairly and being persecuted by his political enemies. Again, that's a base argument. The other argument is going to be more about the issues at hand in the campaign.
You know, we always say the truth matters, but only if you see it. So I want to play this clip of what Fox News anchor Judge Jeanine said on her air earlier.
To a person, the Democrats spent the whole day saying Donald Trump obstructed. Well, newsflash, Donald Trump is not charged with obstructing.
Newsflash, no ma'am. For fact's sake, Donald Trump is facing obstruction charges in 2 of his 4 criminal trials, the Florida documents case and the federal election interference case. The lie was so blatant that even Twitter had to put a fact check on the post with that clip. So my question to you, McKay, is the right just hoping to flood the zone with lies, just a montage of lies 24/7, so people either believe it or tune out from exhaustion?
You know, that has been the messaging strategy of the pro-Trump right for the past 8 years. I've reported a lot on disinformation strategies that have been used in illiberal countries around the world. And one of the strategies that you see time and time again is, to John's point, the claims don't always have to be consistent. They don't have to push a coherent narrative. They're just going to be pumping out misinformation, different ideas, conspiracy theories, lies, propaganda constantly. And even if they're contradictory, even if they don't all fit together neatly, the idea is to exhaust people, to confuse them and make people tune out, right? And I think that when it comes to all these charges that Trump is facing, I think we're going to see a lot of people, if the right is successful, if Trump's campaign is successful, just start to tune out the noise around the trials because they can't follow all of it. And if that happens, that'll be a victory for Trump.
Barb, let's go back to what Trump is dealing with in New York, because this question has been eating away at me for 3 days. The judge here accepted Trump's $91 million bond in the E. Jean Carroll case. And that has me thinking back to all the conflicts of interest concerns we had from Trump's first term in office, when we were concerned about who gave him business loans, who he was beholden to, the conflicts of interest, the potential national security risks. Shouldn't those same concerns be even higher now that people are covering his personal legal costs and liabilities?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, who's coughing up this money for him to be able to post this bond? Same in the Attorney General's case, where the bond is going to be, to the tune of $400 and some million. When a person in public office is beholden to someone for a debt, there are concerns that that person can be compromised. I myself submitted to many background checks, and I participated in interviews for the background checks of other people. And one of the consistent questions you were asked when you were getting a security clearance was whether you paid your debts, you lived beyond your means, you owed people money, anyone had any leverage over you, or any basis for which you could be blackmailed. Because it's incredibly dangerous to national security when someone has something over your head. You are likely to curry favor with them. You can be extorted. You can be blackmailed. You can do favors for people because you owe them money. And so I think this is a very legitimate issue for the public and the press to be exploring in this campaign season.
Okay, it's an issue, but John, here's what's crazy. It's legal again. Do you not remember 5-6 years ago how much reporting we tried to do to figure out who ultimately were Trump's lenders? Because we were trying to figure out who could have something on him. And when Joe Biden won, we heard Democrats say, we're going to close so many loopholes that a president will never be in this position again, where there could be these kind of conflicts. And now here we are. It's worse.
Yeah, the loopholes have been expanded, and basically it's not even Swiss cheese. It's just a big hole, right?
He's just swan diving through it.
And look, yeah, I mean, that concern exists. Barb made great points. And by the way, congratulations, Barb, on the bestseller status. I hope folks go out and read your book. But I think there was a really excellent point there. Anybody who owes a tremendous amount of money to anybody else is potentially conflicted. And in so many cases, we've seen them be conflicted. I mean, it's pure leverage that exists in perpetuity. So we'll have to see how this goes on. But Steph, I do, to your point, very much recall doing a lot of reporting on who Trump borrowed money from because, of course, money talks.